system. And thirdly, Labor will close the loophole. Thank you.
Poto Williams.
Mr Speaker, just before the dinner break we had the Honourable Nicky Wagner deliver her contribution to this appropriations discussion, and I was at the time thinking about a quote from George Orwell, strangely enough, and her contribution reminded me of this. In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. And I think what that speaks to, Mr Speaker, is that this budget is about perspective and experience. And I think it's kind of like a two-tone or a two-phase. There are two worlds in which we live in. And this budget may be delivering to one of those worlds, but I don't believe, sir, that it's delivering to the other. And why I say this, and I've spoken in this House this year about that often, is that coming back after the summer break into my office, in the first few weeks that we were open in New Brighton, we had 80 calls into our office, and that most of those calls were about financial hardship. And our constituents' inability to actually get support from the government agency Work and Income, and the pushback that happened from the Work and Income office to the MP's office, which is completely inappropriate because Work and Income is actually set up to support those most vulnerable. And why I bring that up, sir, is that when I was thinking about Nicky Wagner's contribution today, it is very much reflective of what we're going through in our city. It is a tale of two cities. It is a recovery of two halves in our city. And when you go anywhere but the eastern suburbs, there is work that's been done. There are playgrounds being built, there are buildings being built, and you come out to the eastern suburbs and it's still dusty and munted and broken, and our people see ourselves as different, as other from the other Cantabrians, the other people in Christchurch, because this government actually has a perspective and a pathway for one that is not for all. There is a level of financial hardship in our communities that this budget doesn't touch. This budget actually increases those inequalities that we are experiencing in our community. And I have to say, as far as I'm concerned, thank goodness for our community agencies, because they are picking up a lot of the response that the government actually should take responsibility for. In this budget, the tax cuts mean that there are no increases in state and social housing. In this budget, the tax cuts mean that there are no increases in health outcomes. In this budget, the tax cut means that we still have kids, way too many children, in poverty. In this budget, the tax cuts mean that kids with special needs, like those who've got autism, cannot access the support that they need to go to school and actually lead the fulfilling lives that they deserve. This budget does increase inequality, Mr Speaker. There are still too many children in poverty, there are still too many people who are homeless, and there are still way too many people who are looking to access decent mental health services. There are still too many young people killing themselves. Mr Speaker, in the community and voluntary sector, in the appropriations, there are three items I want to highlight. There has been no change to the appropriation to support volunteers through the Volunteer Centre. There has been no change to the appropriation to support community funding through the COGS grants. And there's been $500,000 cut from Charity Services, which is the organisation that's there to support the capacity and capability building of our community sector. If this government has got a two-phase budget which doesn't recognise the people at the bottom and it's reliant on the community sector to pick up the tab, however, it's not funding the community sector to actually build its capacity and capability, then I actually want to refer to another of George Orwell's sayings as I conclude. Political language is designed to make lies sound truthful and murder respectful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Paul Foster-Bell, a 5-minute call.
Thank you.